Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm Marina Orms, the founder of Astrology Heals at astrologyheals.com. And today's topic is how to overcome lies, propaganda, and gaslighting. Last week on Sundays, I've been doing a little bit more in-depth analysis for you and just diving a little deeper into the astrological symbolism of the times we're in and the energies we're dealing with personally, as well as in the collective. And so last week, I went in depth into some really big picture topics about our alignments with the galaxies and with our galaxy, with the center of the Milky Way, and the way that that changes in a cycle that lasts 26,000 years. So if you missed that, you might want to go review that, because that gives you some context, for our little geologic blip in time that we're in right now. And of course, doesn't feel like a blip to us. It feels like it's dragging on. And when is it ever going to be resolved, or when are things going to get better, right? So we're in the midst of changes and times of transformation, and how the planets in their cycles can help us understand what's happening. And many people want to know, how long will it last? But really, the answer to that is forever. Things last forever. Life, goes on. It's been here. I mean, not technically forever, but very long time compared to our lifetimes. And so we're really looking at where we are in a particular cycle, in a particular moment in time, in a particular process. And these processes are always changing and evolving as we change and evolve. And so we're in a moment of history that is significant and brings certain developments and circumstances and confrontations and challenges and changes, just as our ancestors, were during significant times in history in the past, and will continue to happen and unfold for us. So unfortunately, I can't tell you this is all just going to end at a certain point. It doesn't quite work that way, but what we can see is that we are evolving in this process. And we've had Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So Neptune and Pisces energies are very similar. Neptune is the planet of the bigger picture of transcendence, of transcending physical limitations, talking about spirituality and the bigger picture of interconnectedness and what happens to us before we're born and after we die and things like that. So Pisces is a sign, the zodiac, that also addresses those same kinds of questions. And when they're together, it just sort of enhances and makes more pure the energies of what does it mean to go beyond the limitations of the physical? What does it mean to, and in some cases, lose touch with what are the boundaries, what are the guardrails, what are the signposts that are guiding us forward, what is containing us. So it is a loss of those things that provide structure and containment. It is also potentially a connection to a bigger picture of spirit, of wisdom, of love, of some of these more intangible things that could be supporting and guiding us in a bigger picture when we can get outside of and beyond the constraints of how we have seen things or believed things or understood things in the past. So we're in this time of Neptune and Pisces since about 2011, where we are in that experience of losing potentially touch with what grounds us, right? What makes us feel normal. And so we're losing that feeling of normalcy. We're also losing some of the ways that we understand things, and the themes of having lies be very believable in the collective, having mass sort of collective delusions, and groups that are of people who have, are on a bandwagon of a certain belief or a certain way of looking at the world. All of that is part of this Neptune in Pisces energy. We're kind of losing touch with our collective agreements about how things work, how things operate, how we're supposed to behave and treat one another. And so we lose some of those things. Those are the signposts and the guardrails and the boundaries that give structure to our lives. And so as we lose those, there's this feeling of floating in the ocean, and, what boat are you on, and what boat are you on? And, we're not necessarily like all pointed in the same direction. So that's part of what the Neptune in Pisces energy brings. And when we're talking about lies and conspiracy theories and delusions and propaganda and gaslighting, we're also talking about these themes of what is reality, who gets to decide what is true, who gets to decide what's real. Is it science? Is it, somebody else and what they might think, and is it the simple act of repeating something, a lie, enough times that it becomes true, right? How is truth formed? This is a really interesting question, and this is kind of where we're at with asking ourselves, how do we arrive at a conclusion or a statement of truth? Just because we've always done something a certain way doesn't mean we necessarily have to keep doing it that way. That has some challenging implications, because there's a breakdown of some of our systems of government, of rules, of how things work, of many of the ways that we follow the rule of law simply because we all agree that we will. And then when we don't agree any longer, then we might have that alternate reality as another option, alternate facts, and so I hear things like, we used to believe in science, or I believe in science. So remember that science is not a belief system. Science is a system by which we arrive at a conclusion. And it's only one way of arriving at a conclusion. It's not the only way. And intuition is another one. Agreement is another one. There are many ways we can look at how we arrive at what we understand to be reality, and how we form those agreements with one another. But science is supposed to be objective. So it works with, and in the realm of, evidence and facts and hard things that you can measure. And that gives us a way of containing our understanding. I meant to say containing our understanding of how things work, that can't go flying off in different directions based on just because somebody said so. So that's, why we prefer evidence-based medicine, for example. So, but science is not something you believe in, something you believe, and neither is astrology, for that matter. Astrology is not a belief system. So there are belief systems out there. Anyway, the point is that how we agree on reality is something that is up for a shift. And when Neptune is going through Pisces, as it is still now, I can hopefully let you know when it is leaving Pisces. I don't have that on the top of my head, but anyway, as Neptune goes through Pisces, we have this opportunity also to, it looks like Neptune goes into Aries 2024, 25. So in there, I'll give you some more details as we go through that. But anyway, we have this opportunity to form a new understanding, create a new mythology, right? What is the mythology? And when you think about, we're in competing mythologies right now in the country, right? Depending on your politics or your, you know, what your perspective, I guess is one way to say it. But those competing mythologies reflect the fact that we have an opportunity to choose a new mythology. And I think that one of the mythologies, one of the competing mythologies that we're moving into is one of greater equality of human beings, of women, of people of different groups and different identities, LGBTQ, you know, different ethnicities, races, you know, we're all people. We are all people, and we should all have equal standing as people. One of the things that I find really interesting to think about is that the word men, even in my lifetime, when I was a child, and I was born in the late 60s, the word men had two meanings, very distinct meanings and very specific meanings. One meaning is a male person, a person of the male gender, and the plural of that word. And the other meaning is humanity, which supposedly includes all people. So you can see the problem that we have now. When we use the word men, we say, oh, you know, of course we're being biased because we mean because we mean people, but we're really saying men. Well, I mean, it was problematic back when we used the word men to mean humanity, because for obvious reasons, it's the same thing as a person of the male gender. But I find that really interesting, how language, right, is a way of constructing our understanding of reality. But one of the things we're grappling with now is the fact that those two things are not equivalent. You know, the word men to mean humanity is not specific, because it was easy, right? It was easy to mistakenly use one or the other. Well, we really meant men, you know, people of the male gender, even though we said men, meaning humanity. That's not really what we meant, or vice versa, right? It's like there's a very looseness in the use of that term. So anyway, we're getting clear now, or that's one of the competing mythologies that we have going on right now, is the potential for clarity around what it means to be a part of humanity. And humanity includes everyone. And so there are no lesser or greater humans. There are no more deserving or less deserving humans. That is a mythology that is emerging as one of the competing ways of looking at the world. And of course, as that emerges and blossoms and takes root, we have this emerging also competitive mythology that says, you know, actually we take it back. We didn't really mean humanity. We didn't really mean that we're all equal. We actually meant that some people are more human beings than other people. And that's, to me, that's really in many ways at the core of what it is is going on in our politics and differing and more opposing perspectives. Which one will win in the long run? I mean, it just seems like evolution is marching in this direction. And And some good news for the humanity perspective, the equal person value perspective, is that Pluto is going into Aquarius. And so Pluto, which has been in Capricorn, which is really bringing up some of those older, more conservative, traditional perspectives and saying, it has to be the way it always has been, just because that way must be better because it's the way we've done it before. And it's what we know and it's what we understand. And that is the part of us, by the way, it is the part of us that looks to an authority outside of ourselves for guidance. We look to that father figure. We look to that elected official, that person in a position of authority to fix things for us, to give us the answers, to tell us how it works, to protect us. And we're having to, especially as Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's going to be even more so that we have to rely on ourselves, that we become, as individuals, we become the center of the of what's important, of what is true, of what is right, of who decides what is right, of who decides how to take action. And also, interestingly enough, Aquarius is the sign of both more equalitarian values, and it is also a sign that has to do with higher levels of thinking. And so innovations, new solutions, new ideas, new thinking, outside the box thinking, new solutions to old problems. So really, I think that in the second half of this decade and beyond, we're going to start to really see some shifts to more of that rootedness around equality and what equality means, as well as new solutions that address climate change and address some of the ways that we're destroying the planet and our future, the future for future generations. So new solutions, new technologies, a deeper sense of responsibility, hopefully, around how we use technology and the ethics around that, and creating some systems for dealing with technology. I think that is going to be part of this Pluto in Aquarius energy that's coming as well. We are still in the final years of Pluto in Capricorn. We are still working these energies out. It is very interesting to me that as we get to the truth of this deeper concept I'm talking about, of equality of humanity, of all of us being equally deserving persons, that this other perspective is coming up, almost like that demon, monster who's like gasping its last, right? Is thrashing with the death throes of the patriarchy, is one way it's been put, but it is really, really clinging to power and really, really saying, I'm not going down without a fight. And so it's almost like giving its last, playing all of its cards, right? Like, okay, I'm not going to hold back here. I'm going to really not pretend. And that's what's happening, right? Around the abortion issue, around marriage equality. There's really no halfway. There's no kind of pretending that this is really going to be better for everybody. It's really about control and power, and that's very Pluto in Capricorn. So the Pluto in Capricorn energy. We're completing that. We're working this out in an evolutionary sense. We continue to, this is the work that we have to do. And so bringing it back home to your own self-care and looking at how you are, how what's happening is affecting you and how it is asking you what is important and how you need to act on that, how you need to change your beliefs, how you need to change your attitudes, and taking care of yourself becomes a priority. Because as we give away our power, as we say, oh, I'm gonna not take care of myself because because of this belief that it's going to keep me safe somehow. We have to really look at that and ask, what is it we're giving up? What do we really want? How, and when we take care of ourselves, of course, we are much more able to be creative, to show up, to have a backbone, to be clear in our thinking, to be clear in our speaking, our articulation of what's important, and to have those new ideas and to support ourselves in being the best people we can be, so that we can show up, so that we can be our best selves, and so that we can do the best by the world that is our home, where we live, our humanity, our natural world, our planet. So self-care is a big lesson, no longer looking to an outside authority, looking at where our fears come up and what it is we need, what old traumas we need to process, as those fears about the future, fears about what's happening, fears about what could happen. It's as we deal with that fear and work on our own healing, we allow and support ourselves to move through that evolutionary process. Now, I know that there are times and places and situations where you're really just dealing with survival, and for some groups of people, that's really where you are, especially at certain times, is really just like dealing with survival and ongoing trauma. So get yourself safe, and help each other out, support each other to get through the trauma, and then ideally, to be in the best place possible to do the healing work when you are again safe. So sometimes that's the goal, is just to get through, and then you can focus on healing. So whatever you can do is great. And if you're in a place where you're not really under threat immediately, then you're in the perfect place to do the healing work on yourself and to show up for others. So that's where we're at. Those are, two of the bigger players, outer planets, not necessarily size-wise, but impact-wise, because they're so slow moving and they're important in our bigger picture understanding. So that's Pluto and Neptune that I've talked about quite a bit. We also have outer planet Uranus, which I alluded to yesterday when I talked about how during the final hearing of the January 6th, we had the 8th, I guess it's not the final one, but the final one they're taking a break for a while. So the final one is sort of in this series. And that was on Thursday, just as the moon in Taurus went by Uranus in Taurus, activating that Uranian energy. And Uranus in Taurus is fascinating. It's like, I've said how the paradoxes show up, but it's really, the planet of change, of unexpected developments, of shifts, of of surprises, and that is in the sign of routine and predictability. So one thing that's happening, I was like joking about this the other day, is that surprises have become predictable, right? With these January 6th hearings, we're expecting, oh, what's the next surprise going to be? And what's the next reveal, right? So it's kind of becoming routine. But that's kind of a funny way of thinking about it. But also we've got, of course, shake up and change and new developments as we, in our understanding of reality, in our routines, in our predictable, normal lives, right? So normal right now is not normal. Normal is changing. And what is true in that situation is that we have equal potential for the change to be uncomfortable, unpleasant, and quote unquote bad, as we do for the change to be shocking in a good way, right? Like opening a present, like getting something you weren't expecting, a windfall, or some shift in energies that moves things in your direction. So both are possible, both are true, both could be happening at the same time. And the ways that we set our intentions and get ourselves aligned in the direction of having the things that we want, the more we're sort of affirming that the changes that are happening can move us in that direction, can support positive change, can support shift, and more in the feeling of opening a present and good things coming than the feeling of loss or losing our stability or things we can count on. So instead of when you are noticing that you're a loss of something that you thought you could count on, also notice that there's the possibility in that loss for something new to come in that works even better. And so that's the bigger evolutionary process. Our theme today of looking at how to overcome lies and propaganda and gaslighting, just to bring it back and wrap up that question, is clearly, that the propaganda, the gaslighting, and gaslighting, by the way, is kind of a misunderstood term, but it just means that you're made to feel crazy when you're observing or stating a factual truth. By being told that something that is not a factual truth is the truth, or is what you should be believing in. And so you have to make these decisions about where you stand and what it is you're going to count on and what it is you're going to rely on. And ultimately, we have to have that home base, that place of safety. So we need to rely on each other. We have each other, and we need to, check with each other. Like, I kind of went down a rabbit hole of thinking this, but I just want to touch base with you as my friend or my family member. Is that what you believe? What do you think? What have you heard? What have you read? Why do you think that? Let's just be an anchor for each other in supporting each other in what is true. Because remember, when I started out talking, truth is, it's really, truth is what we agree on. And so find the people who agree and are really supporting your greatest good. Do you feel like you're agreeing with someone or believing what they've said because they have some false hope or false promise for you? Or do you believe it because it feels like something that really is really makes sense, right? So does it really support something that makes sense to you, that is about how things really work, or does it make everything else you've ever heard wrong? So, just some ways to check in with yourself about what you're hearing and what to believe. Keep in mind that propaganda is a really good way of manipulating people. It's a really good way of getting people to do what you want. And there's a promise behind propaganda. It's gonna be easy. You're gonna be taken care of if you just believe this way, and go with the way things are as it is being presented. So question things. We do actually, of interest, have Mars going to be going into Gemini for several months later this year, because this is the once every 2 years time when Mars will go retrograde. And when it goes retrograde in one sign, it will stay in that sign for much longer than normal. This happened in 2020 when Mars was in Aries, and we had that Mars in Aries energy for an extended period of time. But it's going to happen this year in Gemini, and that's going to take us into this realm of questioning, of sort of breaking down our assumptions and getting curious and getting more information and being more proactive about that information, and really asking, what are the facts? What are the details? And I just love how the January 6th committee has been giving us those facts. It's stating what may be the obvious to some people, but just the fact that they're stating it in a public way, in a way that claims a narrative, in a way that aligns with the mythology and supports the mythology that is more humanity centered. And that's a really good way to come to a conclusion here with what I'm talking about, is that when we put energy into that version, we have this opportunity of for that mythology, that new mythology that is emerging, as mythologies tend to during a Neptune in Pisces time, for it to be more human-centered, more focused on humanity and equality, and the inherent worth and value of all human beings, not just certain ones that get to claim personhood or human status while everybody else is sort of lesser. All right. Well, I think that I will wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and any questions that you have about what I talked about today, because I can always answer questions. I'd love to talk more about what you're interested in. So let me know. And thank you for your interest. And this is just really a fascinating thing to look at astrologically. And so it's what I think about all the time. Thank you so much for indulging me and for your interest. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. It really helps me out, and it helps me make more of these videos. So I really appreciate it. Your likes and your comments are really awesome as well. You can learn more about me and how to work with me at astrologyheals.com, and I'll see you next time. There's a daily vibe, astro vibe video every day. So when you subscribe, you'll get to not miss a thing and know what's going on each day. All right. Keep taking care of yourself. Bye for now, and thanks.